Well, we have so many things to look at as far as spring training storylines. So you are back for part three. Hopefully, you enjoy the ride we take as Dave and I look at what the Twins still have to answer before spring training ends. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins. Your daily Minnesota. You are Locked On Twins. Your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren. You can unfollow me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. And your boy hit the intro twice, so that's why you may have heard a bit of a glitch. But we're here, and we're ready to hang out with you. And across the screen from me is Mr. Dave Brown at Answer Dave Brown on the tweets. Dave, how we doing?
I thought I was doing some deja vu there for a second, but I'm glad you mentioned you copped to your double play.
Yeah, and it just double clutched like Tsuyoshi Nishioka getting a takeout slide in 2011 by Nick Swisher. So hopefully I don't have a broken bone in my leg, but I'll keep you all updated. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Dave, we have a few more different questions or different thoughts as far as spring training kind of gets into full swing. Again, we've talked about this, but Twins have University of Minnesota at the end of the week, and then the Pirates, I believe, on Saturday. So it is not that far away from, I don't want to say meaningful games, but at least something that's going to count as far as statistics. And to me, that's pretty exciting.
Who do you think has the better team?
Minnesota
the Gophers or the Pirates?
Oh, valid question. I don't know. I think it's probably a pick 'em if you were to look on FanDuel. So I don't want to wager a guess. I don't want to wager or venture a guess, but it's close. It's real close, and we'll see who puts up a better fight against the Twins. Those college games to me are kind of fun, though. You get to see a lot of different, second string, I don't know if you'd call it that, guys, for the big league club / AAA club. But I think it's got to be probably a thrill for the college players. They see 90, 92 miles per hour, maybe higher in the Big Ten, but it's big league breaking balls, it's sequencing, it's all that fun stuff. I got to believe for players who have some pretty strong competitive juices, it's fun to see how you measure up.
Yeah, it's the college season's been going for a little while, so they've got an advantage, if you call it that, of having played for a bit. But It's you got to get jazzed up when there's professional ball players on the other side, especially if they're major leaguers. It's happened before. I remember one year I blogged about the Pirates losing to Florida State or something in spring training. So it's been known to happen.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but probably not super plausible. Let's dive into part 3 of our spring training questions / storylines we're going to keep an eye on. And I think this might be a wrap for the series. Maybe we will go back to our players the Twins signed that you forgot about, or who knows, maybe there will be some news. Some news today, though. Twins principal owner, or the one who's kind of their front-facing owner, Joe Polad, goes on CCO with Jason DeRusha and basically throws some cold water on the idea that the Twins payroll is going to see any sort of big leap from now to the start of the season. And again, they're saying the quiet part out loud. And, I've talked about this with a friend, and the Twins came out and got in front of that message. The Guardians, on the other hand, didn't. And then now are just like, we're going to stick internal. We're not going after free agents. It's not about the money. We just want to see what guys can do. And so in a way, there's one way to do this and another where you get out in front of it or you let it come to you. Honestly, as much as it stinks that the Twins have not maintained their payroll levels. I still feel like that transparency at the outset of the offseason was, as much as I hate to admit it, probably the right move.
I suppose I didn't see too many details about Joe Polad's interview today, so I looked for him for a while. I couldn't find him. I had something to do with it. So, I mean, I would like to, I don't know, listen to it or
Yeah, I'm gonna go
taking it.
back and get listen real closely just to kind of get a feel for the vibes, because also too, sometimes people just hear what they want to hear.
That's true. I mean, I suppose the Polads could come out and say, we're going to spend a little more money on free agents, or we're going to make a big splash, and people will still hit them with the cheap Polad jokes. So it's you're right. People do hear what they want to hear, and also I feel like that's the Twins not going out and having huge expenditures this offseason. That's kind of always been the vibe. It's sort of always been what we've heard. So it isn't a huge shock, or it's not too much cold water. But maybe people had some hope that with a year of the TV deal struck, that maybe there would be some more spending. I still think they'll be in a good position to do something like that toward the All-Star break, as far as adding people who are kind of expensive. So, I would be, if they're in first place at the All-Star break and it looks like they need someone from another roster that's got kind of a salary on them, I would be disappointed if they didn't make a move then.
Yeah, and it's cold water, not like the polar plunge, but more like those challenges that we all did like 7-8 years ago, where you get challenged to pour a bucket of cold water over your head for, like, I think it was ALS or something like that. Probably a little more apt metaphor. So with that said, the first storyline that I want to get to pretty much feeds into what we're talking about here, and it's, are they really done making additions? Now, I know that Joe said not going to go down the road of a $30 million player right now, but I feel like maybe the unsaid thing would be, I think he said they're going to take, there's other avenues to where you're going to go as a team. I would not discount the idea of a trade still coming. I think they'll sign an outfielder, whether it's Michael A. Taylor, Adam Duvall, whoever else is out there, Will Myers, who I don't think is going to get signed by the Twins, but I digress. I still think there's something out there possible. Every time you think Derek Falvey is done, Derek Falvey has more to say. And again, I don't think that it's going to be, Twins sign Cody Bellinger 3 years with opt-outs like the Twitter craze going around right now. But I don't think they're done. I think there will be at least one more big league addition. And even if that's just Michael A. Taylor, I guess I would count it for, are they really done making additions? But even if they were to sign Michael A. Taylor tomorrow, I would still be sleeping with one eye open, gripping my pillow tight, as Metallica once said.
And also, one thing that we can look at is, how long in general are these players who are still major league caliber and unsigned? How long is that going to drag out for?
Right.
And what does that do to the market? I don't know that it could be any more depressed, though, the salaries of what we're seeing than they are now. So, kind of like how we said before training camp, I call it training camp, before spring training started. Yeah. We're going to see. There's like going to be the natural thing of what happens during spring training. Do guys get hurt? Do they show the depth that we think they have? You mentioned trades as a possibility. I think all those things are still in play. That the team is a living organism. It's not a still being. It's living and vibrant, and it's going to change in a week probably or two. So it's a time for patience, I think, on the part of fans. I think when an opportunity arises, I agree with you that they're going to make a trade or a signing or both. And it won't be a huge expenditure, but it will be something.
How many of the contracts that signed early do you think teams are looking back at as not necessarily regrettable, but like, oh, this is what the rest of the offseason looked like? That's surprising because, I mean, a couple former Twins even come to mind. Sonny Gray getting 3 years at $25 per. now the way things look is kind of like, if someone like Blake Snell gets a 3-year or a 7-year with an opt-out after 3 and a similar amount of money, that's something to kind of wrinkle your brain or wrap your brain around. But even Emilio Pagan, 2 years and $16 million for a middle reliever that really no Twins fan wanted a year ago and would have been happy to see non-tendered. I don't know. There's relievers who could do a pretty decent Emilio Pagan impersonation, or even the Twins, trading for Topa and signing Jay Jackson. They're going to get all those guys for less than Pagan by himself. I think it's going to be interesting to look back on this offseason and say, hey, yeah, if these guys had signed later, things would look a lot different.
Well, when you look at comparing individual contract versus individual contract, you're going to find some situations like that. I don't know if like the end game there is, well, maybe we shouldn't assign anybody and we should have just let them all hang out for the beginning of camp and
we hate that.
let things drag out for the entire player universe. I don't know if anybody thinks that would be better off. You might save some money. But also I think teams probably had an idea of we have this X amount in the budget, taking into account the TV deal and all that stuff. So they went and they spent it, and it's more about what the team payroll is than what we might haggle over on individuals when we look back with hindsight. So I think that's probably that's a healthier way maybe for the front offices to look at it rather than worrying about, we could have saved $5 more.
Yeah.
But with what people seem to be getting right now here toward the beginning of the season, it can't be too much more depressed than it is now. So the owners are getting some good deals.
Bang for their buck. That's right. Well, let's take a quick second. We'll talk about FanDuel. And when we come back, we have thoughts on Louie Varland. We have thoughts on Brooks Lee and a number of other players again. But first, let's talk about FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, at this second, actually, it's probably for a little while too, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. So $150 if your bet wins. It's basically free play, sort of like we list the 7th inning stretch on our show rundown on the right of the screen if you are watching on YouTube. But bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and much, much more. Again, if you have an angle that you want to pursue, there's a pretty good chance that there's something up your alley on the FanDuel app. So go check it out. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. Again, $150 if your first bet of $5 or more wins. FanDuel is an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And I lost you for a second there, Dave Brown. I clicked away from my screen and it disappeared, and I thought the show was done for. Freaked me out for a little bit. But
it was a good run while we lasted. Bye.
I don't know if I would say that, but it's been fun. Again, remember, somebody thinks the teams or the show sucks, but actually, no, the people were nice. They actually reached out and were like, no, this show doesn't suck. And it's like, hey, thanks.
That's mighty big of them. Let me tell you what, for them to come with that kind of praise or whatever you call it, that makes me feel better.
Bringing the heat. And so a question that you posited a few days ago was this one. What if Louie Varland actually develops into a strong big league starter? Now, whether or not he gets that opportunity out of spring training, still up in the air. We've definitely talked about that a fair amount here in recent days and weeks. But Dan Hayes on The Athletic has a story recently, last few days, about Varland kind of tweaking his repertoire, whether it's the shape on his slider, working more on a pitch that runs to the arm side. All of those things to me are pivotal. Anytime we talk about a good starter, it's, what's their third pitch? It's the question with Hunter Green right now. It's the question with, I'm trying to think of who else. Tyler Duffy, when he was starting for the Twins, had that question. And there's a few other guys who, if they don't find it, move to the bullpen and have success. With Varland, it's equal parts, keeping right-handed hitters honest against his stuff, but keeping the ball in the ballpark, because that's kind of the difference for a lot of guys, especially him, though. If he can keep the ball in the ballpark better than he has at this point, he becomes an immensely more interesting option in the rotation as opposed to the bullpen. Now, could he take the Griffin Jacks path? Yeah, I suppose. But because Jacks was a highly homer-prone starter for a minute there before he moved to the bullpen. But I think the Twins have every indication, or they've given every indication, they have every actual thought of giving him some run in the rotation.
Well, I don't know if being home run prone, does that did that help the Twins warm to the idea of making him a starter? Because home runs, when you give them up in relief, it seems like maybe you can pitch around them when you're a starter more than you can in relief. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I don't know if those.
Well, I mean, Emilio Pagan, they're coming off Emilio Pagan giving up a bucket load of homers last season, notwithstanding. So
Right.
it's not hard to make that point that homers from a reliever are extremely damaging because of when they would come in a game and that sort of thing.
Right. And I think the Twins are one thing about Louie. The Twins are always kind of they always have an eye or a foot in the future, and I think Varland developing as a starter is better for the organization just in general than it would be a one inning reliever. If you can, especially these days when it seems like fewer and fewer guys are starting.
Yep.
If you can develop a guy, and if he can go 5 or 6 innings and be valuable rather than just the one, maybe you can find guys like Jay Jackson out there and sort of it's found money sort of thing. But developing a starter is a good. Trying to develop him as a starter is a good idea for tomorrow as well as maybe for today. So I think that has something to do with it. If you can do that at all as an organization, you're going to have something more valuable than what you had last year.
Now, I also wonder if the way they've built the bullpen, like I don't think retrofitting is the right word, but if you start from the back end and work forward, if you can give Louie Varland to start 4 or 5 innings, kind of like the Chris Archer plan from a few years ago or Dylan Bundy, that too could be a path to, figuring it out in smaller bursts, 3, 4, 5 innings, because your bullpen is so good and so deep that it affords you more flexibility on the front end of games. Now, the Twins have been creative in their pitching philosophies. They're obviously a pretty well-regarded team when it comes to getting the most out of their guys. But I do wonder if there will be something to that where, maybe Desclafani only works 4 or 5 innings on average, becomes what a lot of people thought Sonny Gray was, people who have vendettas against Rocco pulling his starters early, so to speak. So yeah, it'll be curious to see, because if Varland's a starter and they don't ask him to go 6 innings every time, you can iron out some things in 3/4/5 inning spurts than if you're expected to go 7, 8 innings every time out.
Yeah, that's maybe for old heads like me who kind of are a little hesitant about, well, I don't know about Louie Varland making him a starter. That seems like a big deal. Yeah, guys don't go 7 innings anymore. Being a starting pitcher doesn't mean what it did even 10 years ago. So it's there's maybe a little bit less of a leap here than it would seem at first. And you're right about the depth of the Twins bullpen. It makes it so you can kind of keep your own expectations in check. Louie doesn't have to go out there and feel like he's got to carry anybody. He just has to pitch how he did last year, just for a little bit longer. And it's, I think that's kind of what starting pitching is evolving into. I don't know if that means we're going to have like 15-person staffs in the future.
Right.
I hope not, but it could be something like that.
Yeah, it's certainly possible if Manfred has his way. Although he did announce that 5 years from now he's leaving. So, yeah.
Well, he wants to leave a legacy of 4 inning starters. That's what I heard. I didn't hear that, but I'm making a joke.
Sources confirm. A good friend of the show, Jimmy Carlson, wants to know just about the team in general, their health, their mindset, position battles. Will they sign any more free agents or a big trade? Jimmy, again, like I said, great friend of the show. So we're happy to hear from him. I think what I want to focus on, because I think they could still make a trade. We don't really know much about free agents. The vibes so far seem immaculate coming out of Fort Myers. There's Byron Buxton, joking about stealing 30 bags, and him and Willie Castro going back and forth on that. I think the vibes all trickle down from Buxton and or Correa, and then from there it's just like sunshine and lollipops coming out of Hammond Stadium, or whatever they call it now. I think it's the CenturyLink Sports Complex.
They don't call it Hammond Stadium anymore?
Maybe they do. Maybe it's both. I've only been there once. Well, one trip, multiple times. So I'm not exactly a Hammond Stadium historian, but cool spot. And I think it's called both. I think the stadium itself is Hammond Stadium, and then the complex CenturyLink is the minor league backfields and all that, if I'm not mistaken.
We need to get the warning track sponsored and named after someone too. I want parts of the field named after certain sponsors.
Oh, I thought you meant like warning track, like my last name, a pun on that, as like a segment of the show or something like that. Because
I feel like I should have thought of that, but that's not what I was thinking at all. I was talking about the thing on the field where you're almost going to hit the fence.
Yeah, well, and who knows if they get to a point where they spray paint the dirt or something like that. They do the little thing where they carve it out and whatnot.
So as far as Mr. Carlson's question, though, about the vibes, I agree. I mean, I'm not there. I can only go by what, the people who are on the ground are saying, and the team, too, in their social media. I think the vibes are good because, as you kind of indicated with Byron and Correa, the two studs came into camp with physically feeling as good as they have in a couple years. And I think that sort of opens up all kinds of possibilities for what the Twins can become. And that message and that feeling sort of permeates everybody. It's like, wow, if Buxton and Correa can be the best versions of themselves this year, there's no stopping anybody on this team. And maybe that's not literally true, but I feel like that can't be anything but great for getting off to a good start mentally on a long season. It's it is. I don't know how you could. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be like really excited about the Twins. It's impossible for me to. I'm not. I didn't grow up a Twins fan, so I guess maybe that's how.
We had someone asking about that in the comments, by the way.
Yeah,
you have to go back and look. It was on YouTube for the most recent show. I said, no, but you're a national reporter and you bring good vibes to the show, and so you're still a valuable addition.
Thank you.
Hey,
but I suppose if you had grown up a Twins fan, maybe you have some, worries about, the other shoe's going to drop or the cheap Polads or whatever your homegrown worries are that I don't necessarily connect with in the same way. But I think if you are a Twins fan, you should be super excited about what the season can bring. I'm not trying to do PR here. There will be bad things will happen, I'm sure. But right now, things feel good.
Well, and Dustin and his colleagues do a pretty good job with PR. They don't need our help. Let's take a quick second, talk about Game Time. When we come back, I'm going to ask you some of the questions that the social media team has been asking Twins players, because some of the answers are pretty troubling. And then we will talk about Buxton Correa being healthy and the trickle-down economics from that. Maybe that's not the right term. But first, a word from Game Time. And if you, Dave Brown, have ever had trouble finding tickets in your home location, I just speed and I can find tickets, no problem. But if you're looking for a show, a game show, I don't know if that's true, but anything that is going on in your city, Game Time, the Game Time app, or if you're on a desktop, gametime.co, that's CO, don't add the M. This is your place to go. If you're looking for a tough ticket to find, whether it's Pittsburgh Pirates playing in a playoff game, that's an exceptionally hard ticket to find. So I don't know if they can help you there, but they could find the Twins against the Royals. They can find a lot of fun tickets, and this is the place to go. And you don't have to worry about buying your tickets. They set you up. They have the price up front. None of those sneaky bait and switches at the end where you pay, an air pollution tax and a clean air tax and you're wondering where all these taxes are coming from, don't have to worry about that with Game Time. It's the only ticket app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see what the field or the venue looks like from where you'll be sitting. Make sure you're not behind one of those poles at Old Tiger Stadium or looking into a fence at Fenway. This is a place to go to do that. They got flash deals, and the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row elsewhere for less, Game Time will give you 110% of the difference. So again, easy decision here. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. You just download the app, create an account, and use the code Locked On, and we'll give you $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, all you got to do, create an account and redeem the code Locked On, LOCKEDON, all one word, for $20 off. So download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, coming down the home stretch here, we got about 5-6 minutes, Dave Brown, and the questions on Twitter from the team's socials were thus far: do you wear socks to bed?
Are you asking me now if I do?
Yeah, we're going to kind of peek behind the curtain and see what Dave Brown does.
Wow. If I am cold, I have worn socks to bed. I have this week, in fact, 2 nights. Yesterday, I was not cold. I did not wear socks to bed. That is my barometer, if you will, for socks to bed.
That seems perfectly sane. I actually made a joke, though, because Carlos Correa, I think, was the only one who said yes, or one of them. And I just joked that he is the only person in history to wear socks to bed and also procreate. But I'm kidding, because I wear them sometimes too. If I'm, if I have, it's cold here. It's, what is it? 30 some degrees here in the Twin Cities right now.
If I could get a little NC-17 for a second, I thought it was, and you kind of touched on it, I thought it was, do you have SEX with SOX on? I thought that was the thing, not so much do you go to bed with them.
Oh.
But I thought that was actually, do you perform the marital act with socks on? I thought that was the question with socks, not so much do you go sleep in them.
I'm going to be honest with you, sex socks sounds like a Andy Dwyer Mouse Rat song from Parks and Rec, which we're making our way through again. But I could see him doing that. And the other question now, what goes first, the cereal or the milk in your bowl? And the number of players who said milk first, that's serial killer behavior, and I'm not going to apologize for it. Daniel Duarte said it, and then comes back later.
Serial killer?
Yes, pun intended, obviously.
Kills the cereal.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. What else would I have meant?
Oh, sorry.
Maybe BTK likes cereal. I don't know.
So there were a bunch of guys who said milk first?
Handful of guys. Duarte said it, and then he ended up recanting later in the video, which I don't know. It's better to be right after the fact than to never be right at all.
I have by accident poured milk for cereal first before, and I'm always like, oh, crap, why did I do that?
Yeah.
One thing I do is if I have bananas.
You said doo-doo. I'm sorry.
I don't do doo-doo. I don't do that.
Nope.
If I put bananas on the cereal, I put those under the cereal sometimes. Not
That's kind of a prize to find under the cereal.
Sort of. I feel like, well, the deeper you bury the bananas, the more likely that the milk will make them cold when you eat them, because bananas are usually room temperature. I think that's where I was going with that. I have to say one thing though about these questions that they ask. My favorite thing is the size of the microphone that they give them. It's so tiny. It's a tiny little microphone. It says Twins on it. It's the cutest thing ever. That's my favorite part of all that stuff.
Well, we don't need to spend any more time on that. You actually posited a really good question. We still have a bunch left, so we're definitely going to have another episode.
About cereal, did I?
No.
Oh,
no.
A question, not about
Carlos
cereal.
Correa, apparently, not apartmently, more healthy with his feet. Have we considered how much better the Twins could be with two healthy, functioning superstars? I want to add a thing where it's not unreasonable that Royce Lewis outperforms those guys either. So, I mean, they could literally have three guys who could carry this team at any given point in the year. And then you've got other very good players besides. I think the fact that the Twins, won 80 whatever games last year and got to the playoffs and all that good stuff, it's hard to imagine an encore act with the players they've lost. And at the same time, too, though, they left so many wins on the table that I'm thinking, if you get these two superstars healthy, you might run roughshod over the AL Central and really put yourself in a position to be the AL favorites going into October.
I think I heard you say a couple of shows ago, meaning like last week, that maybe you'd put the over-under on the Twins' victories at 94. You might have said 90.
Well, I don't know about over-under, but like my prediction,
yeah,
that's kind of murky, the difference between those. I think I'm going to settle at 93, and I feel pretty good about it.
I'm going with 98. I think they're going to win 98 games. I'm probably out of my mind. Maybe I'm just enthusiastic to be here. I don't know. But I don't think everything is going to go right, but you were kind of getting there with what you were saying yesterday. The season they had last year, and so many things didn't go right. And they still, all that good stuff happened. I think lots more is going to go right in the regular season this year, and they're going to win 98 games.
I like it. I really do. And to be clear, the Twins won 87 games last year. So I said 80-something. I wanted to make sure I check and be accurate. But ran away, boat raced the division by 9 games. I think they could do that again. Last question. Is Kyle Farmer just a guy on the roster?
I hope he's on the roster because he's getting paid
a lot of money.
Be a baseball player, and it's very important that they don't pay people who aren't on the roster. They don't need to do that.
Well, if you know the reference here. But hey, thanks for hanging out.
Not the starting shortstop, no.
Exactly. These always seem to go so fast, but we're having a lot of fun. This is Locked On Twins, and we'll see you tomorrow night.